And with a great number of participants now arrived, let's begin the session. Hello, welcome. Welcome to this interactive drop-in session, Getting to Know HSBC in India. My name is Jimmy Kelly. I'll be the host and facilitator for the session today. Please can I remind everybody that this session is being recorded. So today's session then, it's an informal opportunity for you to hear from and ask questions directly to our expert panel in the ground in India. You have the opportunity to ask our panel questions about anything you wish to do with doing business in India today. The session will provide insights in terms of how you can look to grow your business or expand your business into the Indian market. So before we begin then, let me briefly run through the structure of the session for everybody today. The session will last approximately 45 minutes. And during the first half of the session, you'll hear me asking our panelists some questions to draw out some key facts, insights, and information about doing business in India and some of the factors that we see in the Indian market. After that, it's over to you, our audience, to ask our panelists any question that you wish. And if you'd like to ask a question of our panelists today, then at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll find a Q&A box. And within that box, you can type any question that you wish to our panelists. And then during the second half of the session, I will be putting those questions directly to our panelists on your behalf. You can ask a question at any time that you wish during the session, and with the time that we have available, I'll get through as many of those questions as we possibly can. So without further ado, let's begin the session. Welcome everybody, thank you for joining us today. Let me begin by introducing our lead speaker, Prakash Jaiswal. Prakash is the country head of business banking for HSBC in India. Prakash, welcome to the session today. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's great to have you on board. I'm very much looking forward to spending this time with you, asking questions and gaining some key insights into doing business in India. Can I ask Prakash to begin? Could you begin by introducing yourself, saying a few words, and then also introducing the rest of your team, colleagues and expert panelists who will be helping us today?
Thanks, Jimmy. And I think it's great to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody who's logged in. So thank you for joining us. I'm actually joining this session along with a team of few of my colleagues. And let me start, Jimmy, by introducing themselves. And I wanted to do that, I want to do that, not you. So let me introduce Anurag. Anurag is my senior colleague who looks at the whole financing piece for us. And as you would know, MSME financing in India is a big gap to fill. So we are kind of committed to that. Anurag has a team across the country to do that. I have my colleague, Anuj. Anuj does a very interesting job. He looks at the transaction banking piece, and he's the curator. He's the guy who's developed the whole startup proposition for HSBC India. And I have my colleague Vineet Sinha, who does a very important job of connecting companies with other locations, right? So he's the international business banking man, and I'm very delighted to be joining you, Jimmy, to talk about us, India, along with my colleagues.
Fantastic. Thank you, Prakash. Well, and to the rest of the team, welcome. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. I'll be turning my attention with some questions to yourselves soon. And before, can I begin with yourself, Prakash, then? Could you just tell us about some of the opportunities that exist in the Indian market? If a business is looking to expand into India, what things should they know?
Yeah, I think, Jimmy, if you look at the India at a macro level, it's a country with a very young population. Right, we aspire to become a $5 trillion economy, right? And we are putting things in place around that, right? So that's the larger picture, right? It has a very large and strong local demography-led economy, which is consumption, middle class income, the whole uplift in the lifestyle of middle class. A lot of things are around that, right? If you look at the key sectors, right? If you look at manufacturing, we clearly want to make India a very attractive destination for manufacturing. So our government runs what we call as Make in India. So we want people to come and set up shops here, right? And there are a lot of things with government and other private public bodies do that, right? We have things like, the PLI scheme, which has recently been introduced, which has been a thing in the West and other parts of the world, but we have introduced that. So that allows you to manufacture more, and there are incentives linked to that. we went last year when the pandemic happened, after our government went out with two very clear messages that while we want to be a self-reliant country, but we want to be part of the global supply chain, right? So we want to attract people in medical equipments, electronic manufacturing, pharma, specialty chemicals to be part of the global supply chain, right? And the whole thing in Asia and the other part of the world about creating another alternate to China. So the whole China plus one strategy, China plus two strategy, we are clearly there. So that's on manufacturing. I think if you look at the service sector, India is the largest exporter of software and mostly to the Western world. So we clearly leverage the whole manpower strength we have, the educated manpower. So that's clearly a very big one for us. Uh, and if you look at the government, and all the private public bodies which kind of makes investment in India easier, we have climbed a lot of distance on ease of doing business. We want to make it easier for people to come to the country, set up shops here, right? So that's clearly there. In fact, government has set up a body called Invest India, right, which is a very unique model of a government and private and professional technocrats, kind of coming together as a team to help people to get into the country, right? So the government is clearly serious about getting more people in the country, right? If I talk about MSME and the SME in particular, because that's what we do, MSME is a very large contributor to GDP in India, right? A very large proportion of exports, very large proportion of employment, the contribution to the whole supply chain is very large, right? So MSME is a very large set as well, right? It's 65 million MSMEs, many of them micro and small. They don't get financing properly. Many of them are not in so organized sector. So there's a lot of work government is doing to formalize that, enable them to be more competitive and all that, right? And if you look at the Indian diaspora, there has been structural changes in the economy around regulation, legal structures, which makes the MSME much more competitive. So we as a house believe that Indian MSMEs are in the process of getting transformed, where they can scale up, they can go to overseas market, they can have the best machinery, they have the best infrastructure. So that's clearly a wave we are seeing in the country. And there's a lot of work happening about that, right? The last one I would say, which is the most interesting part, is the whole new age companies, right? I mean, we keep discussing this locally a lot, that in India, the mobile phones and internet is really transforming this economy, right? We can actually arguably become the largest internet-based economy in the world, right? A very large proportion of people have smartphones, they use data. So that's another piece which is very interesting. In fact, we do a bit of work on that segment, and you will hear from Anuj on that as we go forward. And the best part of that new age economy which is emerging, Jimmy, is that you have data which can become very powerful, right? And data is again linked to a very large young population, a very high penetration of mobile. So it's a very interesting phase we are in. And we as a country are quite excited about getting investments into the country. Everybody is focused on that. How do we make easier for people to come and invest in this country?
Great. Thank you, Prakash. A great scene setter for us. That really puts into context the conversation that we're having today. So thank you. Before we move into any more detail, then I guess it will be incumbent upon us to really address the fact that it's very challenging times in India right now. And I'm sure I speak for everybody when I say that our thoughts are with you at the moment. How is the pandemic impacting yourselves and business in India today?
Yeah. So we are in the second wave, right, Jimmy, which has been slightly worse than the first wave on the healthcare, and a lot of our known people have been affected. But I think as an economy, as a business, we are much better prepared, right? For example, this time we didn't do a nationwide lockdown. We did more micro strategy, which I think seems to be working. We didn't get the essential services to really get impacted. So that has been, so I would say, while on the health and the medical side, and there is a lot of debate happening around, we could have managed this better and all that. But I think on the business side, it's slightly better story. We also saw one thing very interesting in India, which is also linked to the very large demography and the consumption of force we have. The rebound in the consumer demand in India after the first week of pandemic was very strong. right? We're hoping that happens again, but there is a school of thought saying this time people's sentiments may be slightly worse than the last time because they have lost their loved ones, they got troubled, and so clearly looking forward to the pandemic getting over. The vaccination is the largest focus for the government and everybody involved in that work today. And we're hoping that once this is kind of over or it kind of tapers down, we focus on the entire rebound of consumer demand.
Great. Thank you, Prakash. And again, just to reiterate there, obviously, our thoughts and best wishes in that front. So moving back to the business banking area specifically, then, Prakash, if I can, how would HSBC support a small to medium-sized business looking to expand into India?
Yeah, no, so Jimmy, this is my favorite. And if you look at HSBC India, we're a foreign bank. We're a full services foreign bank. While the distribution of foreign banks in India is regulated, the regulator doesn't allow you to open branches and be all over. But we are a full services bank. We serve all the business needs and the personal needs of any customer. So that's one. We also support the entire life cycle of a customer, right? And there is a bit of a perception demystifying here also, which I'm doing. While HSBC is known as a very large trade finance, multinational, wholesale bank, but we do serve all segments of customers, right? We bank customers right from a company which is just 6 months old to a very large conglomerate, right? And the third aspect I would say for which kind of describes our thought process as a franchise here is that we are trying to build digital capabilities across all touch points of the customer and across all product propositions of the customer, right? And I think that kind of solves the problem for a bank like us on distribution. You may not have 100 branches or 500 branches, but if you can touch more people through digital, and today it's possible, it wasn't possible, let's say 20 years back. So that's HSBC largely. If you look at the HSBC business banking team, we are a bunch of 200 people, a very, very enthusiastic team. And people who deal with our team know that we are hungry for business. We're very focused on banking more and more new customers, right? We call it NTB in our internal parlance. So we are like an NTB team wanting to bank more customers. We are present in 11 cities. We cover, I would say, good 70-80% of the corporate activity in our segment in these 11 cities. We bank all customer personas. We bank MNCs. We bank domestic companies. Domestic companies is a business Anurag handles, which is mostly around financing. We bank companies, Indian companies wanting to go abroad, the foreign companies wanting to come in. And we have all the solutions around transaction banking, financing, and you will hear from my colleagues more about that. We help companies to get money in the country, which is the capital account transaction. So it's quite a full franchise. Our SME business is small, but it's a very fast growing business. In fact, this is one of the two businesses HSBC India wants to grow. One is retail bank, which is on the consumer side, and SME is on the enterprise side. So we're quite a full services wanting to do more, Jimmy. That's how I would put it.
Right. Prakash, thank you. What a great insight there in terms of the current position. Thank you for that. Just before I turn my attention to your colleagues and ask questions directly of those, just a reminder to everybody on the call today. If there's anything you've heard so far, or if you do have any questions that you'd like to put to our expert panel, please do so through the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can ask any questions you wish, ask them at any time, and then shortly I'll be posing those questions directly to the panel. So please do pose your questions as we go. Thank you. So Anurag, if I can come to you next, please. So Prakash mentioned there about how critical SMEs are in terms of the economic transformation of India. What is HSBC India's proposition and plans on SME financing, please?
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for bringing me in. In fact, as Prakash mentioned, that in India, HSBC is completely focused on wholesome banking for SMEs. So, and lending is a very important part of that. So HSBC's proposition for SME, unlike many other banks on the street, is offering them as good a solution as any large corporate would get in the country. So basically what we believe is in relationship banking, where we help the customer to go through their life cycle and possibly graduate from a small enterprise to a medium and from there to large. So it's a life cycle banking that HSBC does with its clients. And just to give you some perspective here, HSBC has grown its lending book by about 40% compounded annual growth rate for the last 4 years, where the economy has actually grown in, say, single digits. So that clearly puts it into perspective that it is a very important business, and HSBC is clearly focused in it. And if we come to the offerings that are there, it is, as I mentioned, it's a wholesome banking, and be it term loans, be it working capital, be it foreign currency offering, it is completely at par with what most of the clients would get. So there is no distinction. So we believe in actually catching them young, making them grow. So and grow with them. So it's a partnership banking that HSBC believes in as far as financing is concerned. So it's absolutely very clear that HSBC believes in this business, and even in the year like 2020, where pandemic was all around, HSBC actually did offer 20% more assets. It put out more money out so that the clients feel better and are finding it easier to recover from the pandemic. So that's what HSBC stands for in India, as far as lending
Great.
goes here. Thanks, Jim.
Great, thank you, Amrag. What a positive story there. Thank you for sharing that with us. Anush, if I can turn to you next, please. So India is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. What does HSBC India do to support startups in particular, and how differentiated is your offering?
Jimmy, thank you. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm not wearing my HSBC for Startup t-shirt, but I should have been. Well, let me start by saying, yes, we have been very keen in banking startups. We have been doing that and will continue to do that. It's a very key focus for us, and so important that we actually have a dedicated team who looks after the startups in India, right? Our approach is very simple. For an early stage startups, we provide a very simple and agile banking. It's banking on the go. Yet at the same time, all the startups would have an access to the same systems, which is an award-winning net banking system that some of the large multis do. When it comes to a growth stage or mature startups, right, we navigate them in international waters, if you have to put things into perspective, right? Meet their vision to go international, and also at the same time solve their problems, whether it is related to having a better or efficient way to collect money, or using an embedded API solution to make refund payments. It's all bespoke solution based on the needs. Right? Now, a lot of startups come to us because of a support that we can provide to them in an end-to-end transaction when it comes to fundraising. Right? Prakash did mention about that. It's a very critical area because India is very regulated, so you need to be compliant when it comes to fundraising. At the same time, price transparency on foreign exchange is a key. Right? What differentiates us from a lot of banks on the ground is that we give them an online system where they can see a two-way price streaming, where they would be able to see what is a spread. In a nutshell, HSBC is for startups and will continue to invest both technology and resources to support them.
Great. Thank you. Really positive news there. Thank you for that. Final question from me before we move to questions from the audience. And as a final reminder, if you would like to pose a question to the team, please do so through the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Vineet, can I come to you finally, please? And so we know that India very much is in the sweet spot, if you will, of a very attractive destination for foreign companies looking to move into India. But as we've heard from our previous speakers, also a lot of SMEs in India do look to move internationally quite early on in their life cycle too. So with that in mind then, could you share with us the HSBC business banking proposition for international banking customers?
Sure, Jimmy, thank you. So I'm going to answer this question in two sections. One is the inbound and the other is outbound. When a foreign company comes into the country, they will always look for the best banking partner who can help them right from the initial stage of the execution, right? A bank who can help them to set up the account digitally, fast, and also to sort of seamlessly execute their foreign exchange transactions, such as the initial investments, the the regulatory reporting, because it's a regulated transaction, the capital account transaction, wherein the customer need to file lot of filing to the RBI, and the role of a bank is very important there. So we engage ourselves with a lot of consultant and the intermediaries who help these companies to come and set up and register their business in India, and that perhaps help us to engage with these companies at its initial level to the execution level, and that's how any of the foreign company come and look from the support perspective. Coming back to the companies who are spreading their wings to the international geography, I think that's the core area of expertise we have, and we are sort of quite proud of quoting that we help a lot of SME Indian companies to go global. Right, we work with many countries. We leverage our international business banking presence and HSBC network to help these smaller companies to go outside. And our sole and global objective here is to become the SME international bank of choice.
Great, thank you. A really strong message there when it comes to international. Thank you very much indeed for your time. So we're going to move now to the questions from our audience, and I can see already that there's got many questions coming in. So please, do keep the questions coming in through the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I'll begin if I can. Then I can see a couple of questions that we've already had in specific around lending during this pandemic period. So aware that Anurag, you touched on this briefly in your segment around the increase in lending, but if I can just read a couple of questions that we can potentially wrap up, and if there's more you'd like to say in this space. So one is, how did the bank fare during the pandemic period, specifically in the space of SME lending? And the other question is to ask about the pandemic, the impact about the lifestyle banking include on investing. So I guess the impact of the pandemic on investing in India.
Yeah, that's a very, very pertinent question, actually, Jimmy. As Prakash also mentioned, that we are now very much in the middle of the second wave. And during the first wave, when it struck, everybody was caught unaware, and possibly our promoters as well as the bank, everybody was grappling with how to face the situation, because it's pretty unprecedented. So we as a bank took a clear call that these clients need support of the bank, and we need to stand by them. So as I mentioned in the earlier part, that we put out more money. Clearly, we also stood with the government in the scheme that they came out with to help finance and provide additional capital out to these MSME clients. And the bank decided that we'll do whoever comes to us, if they're eligible, we will put out money there. And we have actually, I'm proud to say that we have not even rejected one case which had come to us. So effectively, whatever was qualifying, we did support that. Other than that, as I mentioned, that we believe in relationship banking. So our relationship teams, although physical movement was not possible, kept engaged with the promoters. So what they did was that they wanted to understand the fiscal discipline wherever they saw that there may be a chance where a capital expenditure can be put out to provide a better cash flow solution. They did work with the promoters as a partner rather than a lender. So the thought that we have in our team is that money lending anybody can do. Relationship banking is something that we need to do. So that's exactly what happened during the pandemic period. And I'm very confident that we'll see through the second phase also very, very well and strongly. Yeah. So Prakash,
Jimmy, I just want to add here. Jimmy, I just want to add to what Prakash was saying. Sorry, what Anurag was saying. As a matter of fact, it isn't over. We are there are a lot of initiatives that we as a bank are taking. We would be very shortly launching an accelerator program for women entrepreneurs in India. And the sole purpose of that would be to help them raise funding, both debt as well as equity. So it's an accelerator program, 4-month program, which we'll be launching very shortly. So the idea is to support both traditional businesses, new age businesses during pandemic, and we'll continue to do that.
Fantastic. I mean, it's certainly a lot of activity going on during this time, which is all positive to hear. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Let me move through some more of our audience questions, and again, probably extending this point, particularly around financing and the MSME sector. So, what is the formal financing gap for MSME sector in India, and what is HSBC doing to increase financial inclusion for the MSME sector? I guess is that Anurag again? Would that be something that you could pick up for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I would again love to come in here, Jimmy. Yeah, this is one aspect that not only the bank, the officials or executives or the government itself is pretty bothered about, because financial inclusion has been weak in India. Though it's picking up, it's still not there where we want it to be. So just to give you some numbers, the requirement of the formal MSME sector on lending is about 84 trillion INR, whereas the formal financing available, as in the channels, which is banks and the financial institutions, is only providing 15% of that. So majority
Okay.
of it, as in 85%, is being funded by the informal sector, which has very high interest rates, has uh, onerous terms, but they are easy to access. That's the biggest differentiator. So the reach is where the banks and the financial institutions have to really do more on. But given the size of the country and the economies of scale, it may not be possible. But what HSBC is doing is we are now going to rely more and more on data. And there is a lot of data, as Prakash mentioned, that this country is becoming very data rich. So we have to triangulate data where we can't reach physically. Data should be able to help us with a lot of ability to assess and put out money. And digitally, we intend to go about doing this. So basically, technology is going to be the mainstay in this. And there are a lot of APIs, there are a lot of startups that we are engaging with to find, because they have the feet on street, they have the ability to analyze, and HSBC is working with them. So we will see a lot of action in this space. It's already started, and we intend to basically bridge this gap to whatever best possible. Yeah. So
So
that's
Jimmy,
Right.
if I can
Yes,
add
please,
here,
Prakash. Yes.
yeah. So if you look at, and I did mention that the constraint of reach and distribution, which will always remain a constraint for a franchise like us in India, does get solved by what Anurag said, data. But it also gets solved by the concept of approaching a problem through partnerships and platforms, right?
Okay.
In fact, somebody asked me what are the two things which will happen in everything new you do in banking. It's basically platform and partnerships, right? And traditionally banks haven't done that, right? They have done everything by their own, which is not possible in
Mm.
today's world. So I think it's a, and as Anurag, you could see the excitement in Anurag when he spoke about it. I think this is the most exciting part of our business which we want to discover, and we are very clear we will not do it on our own.
Prakash, thank you. Great addition to that question. And so, still many questions left to come to in the time that we have. So, I think we may well be back with Anurag for this question. And is HSBC active on agri-finance?
again. I mean, these are areas that I am very excited about, Jimmy, and somebody is planting
Excellent.
it, and I need to thank the person. I'm sure. So Jimmy, yeah, definitely. I mean, agri-finance is another thing that, again, the government has already put a stipulation around 22% of the financing has to go towards that. Marginal farmers and farming. Sorry, 18% has to go towards farmers and marginal farmers. So agri is required to be there in your overall lending as far as the regulation is concerned. But that aside, HSBC is actually looking at organically growing into the space. And again, as Prakash touched upon, that partnerships and platforms again will be the mainstay there, because there are a lot of startups who are working in the rural ecosystem. They understand the ecosystem, the supply chain that is coming, say from the farm to fork, or farm to corporate who are food processing companies. There is a lot of gap that is there, logistically as well as financial gap. So that is something that HSBC is looking to bridge, and we have already made start on that field with some partnerships already having been signed off, and we expect to do much more in this space. Yeah, this is a very exciting space, as I said, Jimmy, and this is going to grow. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Anurag. So next question then, I think maybe coming more to Anuj, if I can, and I think this maybe speaks to, we've heard lots about working with startup companies, but also a perception out there around HSBC being the big international bank and focus on startups. Simple question, do HSBC lend to startups?
Jimmy, I kind of expected this question to come. Let me first say yes. At the same time, we are not a venture debt firm. So idea is not to become one, maybe in near future, but not now. We do support startups for a short-term working capital. There are many startups who use HSBC procurement cards to manage their indirect spends and enjoy up to 52 days of a credit interest-free, right? Who would do that? We offer that to a lot of startups, right? We have bespoke lending program for some of the growth stage startups who look at specific project financing, right? We have an approval-based supply chain financing program available for startups where we are piloting few of them. And there are many more in works, which we are ready to lend to startups, and we look at from a different lens and not with the same lens that you would look at a traditional business. So short answer, yes, we do lend to startups.
Great. Thank you. And maybe a follow-up question on the next question may align slightly to that as well, is how open are HSBC to partner with Fintechs?
Yeah, can I take that, Jimmy?
Yeah, of course, Prakash,
yeah.
please.
So I go back to what I was saying. So if you look at not only us, typically all banks, whenever you had to solve a problem, you wanted to, your preference was to do it on your own, right? In premises, your own in-source and stuff like that. But in the last 2-3 years, we have seen a shift where banks and financial institutions wants to solve problems along with somebody who's slightly more agile than you, they're smarter than you, they're smaller than you, they're faster than you, right? Right, and they sit outside the banking channel. And HSBC has invested in Sarai, which is our first experimenting of doing a startup outside the bank, right? So I think the thought process is very clear that you can't solve a problem without fintechs today. So we as a bank are in a phase where we started this journey about doing work along with fintechs to solve many of your problems. It can be a process problem, it can be a sourcing problem. Like Anuj's team does a lot of work with fintechs where we can source business through them. Anurag's team is working on a lot of fintech capabilities, which allows you to analyze and monitor your portfolio with the fintechs, right? And there are a lot of fintechs which will allow you to serve your customers well. So the answer is a big yes, Jimmy. In fact, the India team is in mid of a journey where we're accelerating our mindset, engagement, partnership in a big way. Somebody like me and Rag and Anuj meet like 5-10 fintechs every month, and it's completely an open field, I would say, and we're here to grab. And I think our initial experience has been good. They have been able to deliver things faster for sure, because banks tend to be a little less fast because of the structure, the age of the organization or the size of the organization, right? So very clearly, we're looking forward to doing that. I think finally you will land up in a place where you will have a cohesive ecosystem of fintechs you work with, you help each other, and we're seeing that those kind of aspects also coming. We have some fintechs whom we bank as well. So while they are helping us, we are helping them as well. There's a fintech in Anuj's team where we have delivered solution for them, which has improved their business model. So it's a very, very nice thing which we are developing, and quite an exciting one. Yeah.
Great, growing relationships between yourself and fintechs, and an exciting time for sure. Just conscious of time, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I've got time for 2 or 3 more questions. If I can, I think this may be Vineet. I think this may be coming your way. I've got a question. Could we shed any light on the corridor connection between HSBC UK and HSBC India? There are teams set up recently, but what does it look like in terms of business, retail, products, services, and offerings?
Sure,
can I come to you with that, please?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jimmy. That's quite an interesting one and close to my heart. UK is one of the important corridor for us, because being the home market, we have a large customer base, and we work very closely with a lot of association here in India who are UK and India corridor focused. association. We are quite keen to do many more of such collaboration with such association, firm, or any of the consulting company who are open to collaborate with HSBC and sort of help the customer either coming from UK to India or India to UK. To answer that question, yes, we are doing it, and we are keen to do more.
Great. Thank you for that, answer, Vineet. That's great. Well, I guess when we're looking around sort of the international lens, another question we have from an audience member is, are there any restrictions on moving investment in or out of India? Do I need to have a locally registered company? Who'd like to take that question for us?
Can I take that?
Yeah, please, Vineet. Yeah.
So any transaction in India is quite regulated by Reserve Bank of India, which is the governing body. To answer the question, yes, the customer can take the money out provided he has declared the dividend or the transaction is compliant as per Reserve Bank of India regulations. Yeah, but I'm quite keen, or will be happy to take the specific question if the customer can directly write it to me.
Okay, that's great.
So Jimmy, just wearing my
yes, please.
Just wearing my product hat, which I used to do a few years back. Unlike other developed countries, India is a regulated country. So anything which is coming into India needs some approval. But at the same time, the foreign direct investment policy has made certain sectors very favorable to bring in the money after doing certain declarations. And that's the point we were making about facilitating customers to be compliant. That's one of the things that we do it very proudly, and we help them in an end-to-end journey. And similarly, when you're looking at repatriating money, obviously we are not the tax experts to talk about how you do it, but you would need a bank to facilitate that. And we definitely jump in to ensure that the transactions are seamless and are done as much digitally as possible.
Great. Thank you. A very, very useful full answer there. Just conscious of time, we'd just like to get through a couple more questions if I can. One interesting one we have from an audience member here is, our company, which is into food industry, is associated for over 5 years with HSBC. We're now going through a dynamic change with Make in India approach, as we had witnessed a lot of tensions with China. What is the exposure HSBC would like to support Make in India? Okay. Prakash, is that? Oh, no, sorry.
No, maybe Anurag is the right person.
Yeah.
Anurag, sorry.
Yeah, in fact,
Anurag,
I was
please.
also reading. I was just hoping that this question does come up the list.
Great.
So yeah. So the question is very specific about a specific company, which, see, if you ask me, the overall psyche of the bank or the principle is very clear that we want to support the Make in India initiative. But each case will be evaluated on its credit parameters. So if the project makes sense and does tick the boxes, clearly we stand by it. And food processing is any which way is an industry segment that we like and understand, and we do have enough and more exposure in that. So again, short answer, yes, we are excited about that, but we will look at the case specifically, and definitely the person who has asked the question is more than welcome to approach the relationship team, and we will definitely take it up.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So just turning attention, I guess, a little bit more to product proposition and costs, if you will. We've had a question, what are your fees? Are there any hidden charges towards banking services?
Yeah, let me take that, Jimmy.
Please, Prakash.
So I think it's a reality that people perceive us. It's not a reality. People perceive us as a bank for the big ones, right? I mean, I get that question posed to me multiple times, right? Are you really interested in SME banking? Are you not supposed to only bank the big ones? You guys are costly, you guys are difficult, and all that, right? But the reality is, and if you talk to our ecosystem partners, our customers, you will hear that very clearly. While we are a large wholesale bank in the country, but we are not costly. We are very, very focused on SME. As I said, HSBC India franchise has 2 strategic growth areas, which is out outside in public. One is wealth management and retail banking, consumer banking, and second is SME. So we don't have hidden charges, guys. We are actually not a costly bank. Today with digital proposition, you actually are cheaper than a lot of local banks, which are not that digital. I think our approach to pricing a relationship is not pricing a product and pricing the entire bouquet you give us, right? So if Anurag has a customer which he can lend $2 million to, and Anuj has to offer a transaction banking service to him, he wouldn't charge for it just on that product. So the quick answer is that we are not a bank for the biggies. We are a very serious bank for small companies, because look at what we have achieved in UK and Hong Kong, right? The biggies have come from the SME. Our SME business in Hong Kong and UK are a big testimony of the franchise knowing the value of catching people young. And we are already seeing that in our business as well in India, right? A lot of our customers are becoming bigger and migrating to or transferring to other units of the bank where we can offer much more products to them, right? So no hidden charges, not costly, very, very open and willing to bank small companies, while we will remain a large wholesale bank for some time because the SME business is still small, but very, very happy to focus on SME banking. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Prakash. That leaves nobody in any doubt in terms of positioning there. We're coming to the end of the session, unfortunately, so we don't have time to get through every single question, but I do think we've covered most of the key themes. If I can set the sort of final question to pull on the thread a little bit more of something we've touched on a few times, particularly in the digital space then. So question is about how digitally savvy are the Indian business banking customers in particular, and how are we expecting this to evolve? Is digital tech the pillar for most of these companies, or is it more manufacturing driven is the question?
No, so I can take that, Jimmy, and I think it's a very interesting topic. Contrary to the notion or perception that small businesses are resistant to technology, in fact, the reality is opposite. And who knows this better than our team? Because we have so many customers who adopted to our digital capabilities. In fact, my observation is smaller companies are smarter than the bigger ones in adopting, right? We have stories of an 80-year-old founder signing a credit facility document on his iPhone, right? For the first time ever. And we took a snap of it and kept it, right? So I think my observation is that the agility of people who are smaller, not very equipped as a setup, actually is better to adopt technology. And that's why we as a business, as a franchise, are quite excited about building digital capabilities to start with SMEs. In fact, if you look at HSBC India's all digital capabilities being built, it's all being tested, adopted first in SMEs because they're actually the easier ones to advocate, right? So the story is actually opposite. So they are the best lot to experiment. And look at the entire digital ecosystem in India. The entire tech stack of India is actually serving smaller businesses more than the bigger ones, right? So it's a big positive for us, Jimmy. Yeah.
Fantastic. The future is very much digital, and I think what a wonderful way to draw the Q&A to a close. So Prakash, thank you very much indeed. So just as we bring this session to a close, then can I first of all thank you, Vineet, Anuj, and also to Anurag for your time today, and your insights have been incredibly insightful, and I hope everybody's got as much out of this session as I have. Prakash, finally turning to yourself, I'd like to say thank you for your time. Are there any final words you'd like to say before we close the session today?
Yeah, so I would like to say one more thing, which is again my favorite. I think, when you bank small and medium businesses, in addition to the commercial objective we have, right, to bank, to make money and earn fees and all that, I think there is definitely one social angle which coexists with it, right? While we don't talk about it all the time, but it's a reality that when you're banking a small company, what runs in your mind all the time is that are you helping him to grow and scale, right? And I think I keep saying this to all the founders and promoters of small businesses, saying we would do that in our way by giving you a very good quality banking, right? So my way of helping a small company to grow and scale up is to give you very high class banking, which is a combination of our proposition, our technology, our products, and people. Right. I think customers and people are the pillars of this team. I think so Jimmy, if you interact with our team, you will know this. We are a bunch of 200 people. Out of 200 people, 100 people are less than like 27, 28 years old. It's a young lot, very noisy lot, very passionate, very hungry lot. And we are very, very passionate to keep banking more and more SMEs. And as I think everybody said the same thing, saying it's a long runway for us. Very excited to grow our business, serve clients, and help people on the way. That's how I would like to close.
Fantastic. Thank you, Prakash. The passion and the expertise is there for all to see. So thank you all very much for your time. To our audience, thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed the session. Please do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.